Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks to the witnesses today. Over the past year and a half, we've watched President Biden and the Democrats continually push an anti-life agenda. First, they gutted the Hyde Amendment, long-standing provision of appropriations bills that prevents taxpayer funding for abortions and has saved an estimated 2 million lives. Then the Biden administration's Department of Health and Human Services changed their rules to essentially require healthcare providers to perform abortions despite any moral objections they may have. They have prevented the House from voting on common sense pieces of legislation, such as Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. This bill would ensure that babies who survive abortions are provided with medical care. And finally, my Democrat colleagues passed a radical bill that removed existing limits on abortion and allows abortion on demand, no matter the age of the baby. The party who once claimed that they wanted abortion to be, quote, safe, legal, and rare, now stands for abortion on demand up until birth and funded by taxpayers. Last week, I joined my colleagues in the Wisconsin Republican delegation in sending a letter to Attorney General Garland, calling on him to investigate the arson at the Family Action Office in Madison, of which my colleague, Mr. Tiffany, spoke about earlier. We need to make sure that we prevent similar attacks in the future. Rather than focusing on diffusing threats against Americans for their political beliefs, the department has, in the last 17 months, been silent on or encouraged further partisan targeting. I myself will always push back on their anti-life stances with a clear and strong message of opposition, and I have as a state legislator for 27 years. I believe that every human life is precious and should be protected at every stage. If the leaked Supreme Court opinion ends up being the final product and overturns Roe versus Wade, it would be a fantastic victory for life and for the babies. The pro-life movement has spent decades working on this movement. This is not a complete nationwide ban on abortion. Like I said, I've passed hundreds of bills, pro-life bills, at the state level. Elected officials, rather than unelected judges, will set abortion policy based on where consensus is found. Babies in the womb deserve legal protection and possess the basic human right to life. Unborn children at 6 weeks have a heartbeat, and by 15 weeks can feel pain and have human features such as nose, lips, and eyebrows. Even if states choose to ban abortions with limited to no exceptions, the value of human life is not determined by the circumstances of his or her conception, and abortions carried out following these horrific crimes only compound the crisis that the mother is enduring. Abortion advances a cycle of violence forward on yet another innocent victim. There are 2 lives at stake here, not one. The pro-life movement has always been committed to serving mothers and children with pregnancy care centers and alternatives to abortion programs. Ms. Foster, even some of the most liberal constitutional scholars, including Ruth Bader Ginsburg, have been critical of Roe's shaky, if not non-existent, constitutional standing. Can you discuss some of the constitutional errors the Supreme Court made in the Roe and Casey cases and how those may be corrected in the Dobbs case?
Absolutely. As of July 2021, we at Americans United for Life had compiled more than 38 pages of scholarly criticism of Roe from the left and the right, explaining just how unmoored in the Constitution Roe and Casey are. We do hope that Dobbs will be the case that Casey wasn't, that it will correct the errors of not finding a right to life in the Constitution, of course, but also finding this purported right to abortion that in the decades since, even the court hasn't been able to quite get grasp of, right? As it changed the test and the framework from Roe to Casey, and then even in the last few years with Hellerstedt and June Medical, the undue burden standard has been up in the air as it's gotten pushed back and forth from the court.
Very good.